Hello, hello, friends. How was your week? How was your weekend? This week, we have Neptune entering its retrograde. We also see that we are midway through the Mercury retrograde, and there will be a Mercury Cazimi when it forms a conjunction with the sun, offering a bit more mental clarity and maybe even some aha moments for us. So, welcome in to Align Weekly, your weekly source for ritual, reflection, and the top transits for the week ahead. I'm your host, Alina, and with that said, let's just dive right into it. As many of you already know, we always start Align Weekly with a little journaling section where for 5 minutes we just do a brain dump together. I find it a bit easier to do it with other people, and I know that doing a little brain dump, just writing all the to-dos for the week ahead or all the things that have been floating around in my mind, maybe, or fleshing out an idea, doing a mind map, can be really helpful to step into the week with a bit more clarity. So hopefully while I was saying that, you grabbed your notebook or maybe your planner. You can also grab your Auralign Astrology planner if you'd like to write in there. And I'm just going to start a timer for 5 minutes and we can brain dump together and just get it all out. Then we'll come back for mini meditation and then dive into the top transits. All right, that concludes our journaling segment. I hope that if you decided to do a brain dump, that it was insightful for you. You feel a little bit more clear on the week ahead or even just the day ahead. We'll go ahead and dive right into our guided meditation now. So I invite you to find a comfortable seated position, seated upright, and you're welcome to gently close your eyes or rest them on a point in front of you. And we'll take a steady breath in together, being intentional on filling the belly. And a steady breath out through the nose. We'll take another gentle breath in. And slowly breathe out. Taking our time. Let's take another breath in, holding at the top. And breathe it out. I want to, for this meditation, invite you to explore what box breathing is. We essentially breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, and repeat that over again. I've come to find that getting into the rhythm of relying on this simple count has helped me to slow my breath and steadily ease into a meditation. So let's take a breath in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding for 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out for 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding for 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathing back in. And holding. Breathing out. And holding. Breathing in. And so on. And resting our awareness on our breath count or the box breathing method can help us slow the mind down and settle into a longer meditation, or it can help us to get more grounded and present at any given moment in the day. With that said, I invite you to bring your awareness back to the room. You can gently roll your shoulders, and when it feels right, you can open your eyes. As always, this box breathing method, just like last week's bubble of protection visualization and the week before that, butterflies of opportunity mini meditation, these are all things that you can come back to. All of that to say, let's go ahead and move right on to the top transits for the week ahead. As mentioned before, this week signifies the start of Neptune Retrograde, but also midway point in the Mercury Retrograde. And both of these retrogrades are routine. They happen every year. The Neptune Retrograde happens around this time every year as well. And so it's not too major, especially because Neptune is an outer planet as well, but there's just a lot going on. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Starting on Monday, July 6th, we see that the sun in Cancer will be squaring Saturn in Aries. Now, the sun signifies the ego, the identity, our sort of image that we imbue to the world in a lot of ways, while Saturn signifies the strict teacher in astrology, the energy of sort of life experiences that really push us and invite us to mature in many ways, and sometimes through tough life lessons. And so considering that the sun is in a more tension-filled square aspect, a bit more challenging of an aspect with Saturn, it indicates that the week is starting out with a bit more of an invitation for us as a collective to mature, and a bit more of I don't want to say the word confrontation, but there's a higher likelihood that some of us have some experiences either on Monday or throughout the week where we are invited to be the bigger person in some ways. And considering that the sun is in the sign of Cancer, that's a very emotional sign. It can indicate that aspects of the ego could feel a little under attack potentially. Maybe not us, maybe it's somebody else in our lives, or we're observing these things playing out. But those are the overarching themes that you can expect from a Sun square Saturn type of transit, and that happens on Monday. Next up on Tuesday, July 7th, is when we will see that Neptune will start its retrograde in Aries. Now, this is a retrograde that is kind of notable because Neptune recently entered the sign of Aries in March of this year. So for this retrograde, I think a lot of the overarching themes will involve us circling back to reflecting on any sort of life shifts or moments that happen, especially around the start of the spring season. And the thing is about Neptune is that it's already this planet that's tied to a bit of confusion, a bit of mental fog. And so in retrograde, it can essentially amplify those overarching themes. But I do want to highlight that Neptune is an outer planet. It's a slower moving planet, and thus it doesn't have as noticeable as an immediate effect on us, especially once the retrograde starts. We also had a pre-shadow period leading up to this. And so it's not like on Tuesday, there's going to be this huge major moment where we all have brain fog. It's more so this indication that over the next few weeks and months, there will be some overarching themes where we might be invited to reflect back on things that happened earlier in the spring season. And it'll just be important to keep our wits about us in various ways. But I think that with this being a retrograde, I think that many of us might have more moments where we sort of lift up our rose-colored glasses and we kind of see things for what they are a little bit more. I think that some of us, especially at the start of the spring season, with new energy and new changes and phases in many of our lives, with this retrograde, it's ushering in more invitations for us to reflect on why is it that we wanted this change, or why is it that these changes happened, or why is it that we have these intentions behind these changes. There's a lot more invitations for reflecting on things like that. And on Thursday, fast forward to Thursday, July 9th, we see that Venus will be entering Virgo. Now, it's kind of funny because, Jupiter just entered Leo and now Venus is just leaving Leo. Now, Venus, once it enters Virgo, it will be in its fall. It doesn't like being in the sign of Virgo. It's sort of romanticizing, aesthetic-centered, easing type of energy is a bit subdued in the sign of Virgo. And it also will be right next to the South Node. As many of you guys know, the nodes have been in Pisces and Virgo for a while, and the South Node signifies an area of our life that when it is in that sign, so right now it's been in Virgo, it indicates it's sort of the spotlight on an area of life where we have been invited to sort of clean things up and let certain things go in our lives and do a bit of sort of spring cleaning. And sometimes it's through the discomfort of certain experiences that it's been highlighted over the last, months, over a year of these nodes being in these signs, of us needing to let go of something or grow out of something tied to Virgo. So it can be helpful for you to look and see what house in your natal chart is in the sign of Virgo to get more clarity on what those overarching themes might be. And even though Venus is in its fall in the sign of Virgo, it's still one of the greater benefic planets. And so it's still always going to offer a bit more ease in different situations, depending on where Venus is. And so since it's next to the South Node, it'll be conjunct the South Node very soon. It definitely indicates that there's going to be a bit more ease when it comes to any sort of difficult life situations that are tied to the South Node being in Virgo for us. So if you maybe have been going through it because of the nodes being in Virgo, you might see a bit of ease starting this weekend. Now, next up on Saturday, June 11th, the moon will be entering Gemini. Now, I wanted to talk about this. I don't usually talk about any given moon ingress into any given sign because the moon changes zodiac signs every 2 to 2.5 days, right? It has a 28-day cycle. And, at the start of the new cycle is a new moon, midway through it is a full moon. And so, there's a lot of lunar ingresses on, every week, right? But I really wanted to highlight the moon being in Gemini because we talked a lot last week about the Mars-Uranus conjunction in Gemini. And right now, the Mars and Uranus are still in a sign-based conjunction, that degree-based conjunction is now separating. It's now easing up a bit, but they're still together there, right? And I really wanted to highlight that the moon is in Gemini starting on July 11th. So it'll essentially be in Gemini all of next weekend because I have come to find, as many astrologers have, and many of you already know, that the moon tends to be this sort of magnifying glass or this sort of radio receiver. And whatever zodiac sign it's in is kind of like whatever radio station it's on. And that radio station is that sort of zodiac sign. And, it's a great way to describe it. Imagine each station is a zodiac sign. So it's like on Saturday, the moon will be tuned into Gemini radio. And guess who's on the radio in Gemini? The planets that are in Gemini. They're the talk show hosts right now, right? And the talk show hosts this weekend on the radio station Gemini are Mars and Uranus. And so essentially the moon amplifies whatever is going on in that constellation, in that zodiac sign. So I wanted to bring up the fact that the moon will be in Gemini this weekend because, in my opinion, I think that not all, but a lot of the sort of associations that people make or have tied to, or predictions people have tied to the Mars-Uranus conjunction, I think that if they were to happen, there's a higher likelihood for us to notice those things this weekend coming up because the moon is now amplifying the state of Mars and Uranus in Gemini. So I just want to highlight that and just remind you guys, Uranus is a planet of unexpected changes and shifts. Mars is a planet of war, aggression, but also passion. And when they come together, it can be unexpected war, aggression, passion, but also unexpected bursts of energy sometimes, unexpected waves of inspiration and energy and drive to actualize the things that we come up with right now. And Uranus transiting Gemini and entering this new zodiac sign signifies for all of us that there is a new life area where deep within us, we feel ready for something to evolve, something to shift, something to change. And so Mars is there, and it's kind of like a lighter to the gasoline that Uranus already has. Mars is this fiery planet of like, let's go, let's get it, let's be in action, right? And so with the moon on Saturday joining Mars and Uranus, and essentially really amplifying that energy and sort of channeling it to the earth, so to speak, I think that we will, those Mars-Uranus themes that were discussed a lot last week will be more tangible over the weekend, for better or worse. The final transit for the week will be on Sunday when we see July 12th. The Sun and Mercury will form a conjunction in Cancer, also known as a Cazimi. Now, this Cazimi is one that also happens around the midway point of the Mercury retrograde. Mercury is still retrograde. And around the time of the midway point of a retrograde is when we can start to sort of integrate and better understand the lessons that Mercury retrograde might have brought about for us. Any sort of mishaps or experiences that you feel like might have been tied to Mercury retrograde, it's around the second half of it that those lessons become more clear, or that we find a bit more of a rhythm, and we essentially feel like a lot of these overarching retrograde themes begin to subside, which is great. But a Cazimi, especially a Mercury Cazimi, which is the name for when a planet and the sun form a sign-based conjunction, it signifies aha moments. It signifies epiphanies, realizations, moments of clarity where we can see past, especially the retrograde fog, even just for a moment. Imagine being in the eye of the storm where it's a bit more calm, even though all around us there's a lot going on. Those are the overarching themes of a Cazimi. And so it can be helpful to use our emotional intelligence and empathy for personal growth and development. And I feel like this Sunday can be a really great time. Oh, there's like a little tiny spider descending from my ceiling. Let's see if I can get it. Oh, I got it. Okay. Oh no. Okay. Don't crawl towards me. Okay. I got a little baby spider. I was so brave. That was scary, but it was really small. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. I get distracted a bit easy. All of that to say, I think that starting around Sunday, there's going to be a lot more clarity. And I think that it can be very healing for a lot of people in terms of relationships. And I just think that having empathy and empathy on a deeper level, like even people who frustrate you, not just having empathy or social awareness enough to be able to clock somebody like, oh, I know what they're doing, but maybe even enough empathy to pause and ask yourself, why are they doing that? And that doesn't mean I don't mean, and I'm not equating empathizing with forgiving, right? But better understanding people and empathizing can also help us to depersonalize things, not take things as personally, and also kind of externalize things a bit more, not internalize them too much. I think it can be helpful for many of us. So that concludes the top transits for the week ahead that I wanted to cover with you that I feel are the most poignant. And with that said, that concludes Allied Weekly. I hope that you have a lovely week ahead. Next week, we have a new moon coming up. And so we'll talk about that. And yeah, I'd love if you'd like to comment maybe if you made it to the end, comment 3 fog emojis to let me know you made it past the Neptune retrograde talk, the Mercury retrograde talk. We're having a great Cazimi this weekend. And there's going to be a lot more clarity ahead. We're moving past the fog now. But with that said, I will leave you with my favorite affirmation, and that is, be gentle with yourself. Because life is about the journey, not the destination. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.